Hi, I'm Roy Collin, the host of the podcast. You can find everything about me by scanning the QR code there or going to roycollin.com. And you'll find my six podcasts, the Podfather, helping people become podcasters, the Awakening, exposing fraud and corruption, but with solutions, the Crypto, all things blockchain technology, meditation podcast, speaking podcast, and the Learn Polish podcast. You can also help the show by actually making a donation, visiting the store, or helping my sponsors. I hope you enjoy this week's show. Welcome to the Crypto Podcast. You can find all our episodes on thecryptopodcast.org. My guest, based in the USA, he's known as the App Man. And obviously he creates apps, but also platform creation and community engagement. Please welcome, and more importantly, he's a podcaster as well. And we'll touch on that. Then Hafner.
Thanks for having me on the show, Roy. Really excited for it.
Yeah, no problem. So, let's get to know Dan a little bit. I know that you're doing the apps, everything. So, first of all, I'm just looking at the picture. So for those watching on Spotify, YouTube or Rumble, you got some nice pictures in the background there. Dude, tell me.
Yeah, you can see the pictures here. And then we even got these little guys hiding over here. They're, for those of you not watching, they're Chihuahua pictures, little Chihuahua toys. My wife and I, we have two little Chihuahuas. They're a little bit older. We've had them for a little while. But I never had small dogs before. I always had like labs or retrievers, growing up, and it just kind of, I don't know, about 10 years ago, I think we got our first dog, 2014. And she was just this little tiny, she fit in the palm of my hand. And I was like, what are we doing with this dog? But she has been like the best dog. I never would have thought. She's like so loyal. She's such a good dog. So, but then we actually have another big one now. So we have three, my wife and I. So we have a full house of dogs. He's an Aussie Shepherd Golden mix. So yeah, that's kind of our fun. We don't have any kids yet or anything, but we have our three dogs to keep us busy. So,
Excellent. So, the app man, but so let's kind of, because apps, I'm not sure when it started. I know there was Snake by IBM, I believe, was the very technically what people think was the first app. And then 2008 was the App Store, but I'm not sure when you started, but let's kind of go back a bit and kind of your career and how you got into this.
Yeah. So, we kind of expanded more from just apps into software now, but I can get into that later. But, I am, like I said, I'm married to, my now wife. We started dating when we were back in college, and she's in the medical field. So, here in the States, you kind of have to travel every few years. You go to college for a few years, and then you go to medical school for a few years, and then you go to a residency for a few years, and these are all in different cities. So we kept moving around together, eventually got married, but then we just kept moving all the time. So it got a little tough for me to hold down, a steady job when we were doing that every so often. And at the time we were engaged, I had this idea. I'd got this entrepreneurial bug, and I was like, I really want to build this app, but I just really had no idea how to do it. So started reaching out on the internet, trying to find agencies or people that would help me do it, and quickly found out that it was going to cost me a lot of money. Like a lot of money. And I didn't really have that at the time.
Trusting them as well, because I know that getting apps done, sometimes people will deliver, but there's also people, they'll take your money and they'll give you a box. And then if you want bells and whistles added to it, that's a lot more money.
Yeah, exactly. And that was my experience too. So then I thought to myself, well, I'll just go learn code. At the time I was working as a software tester. So that's kind of where I got my background in software. Was we built, I was like a tester for military applications. We would build, I was working for this company where we would build, applications and software for the branch of the Army branch of our military. And so I kind of had this interest in it and started to try to learn the code, and that lasted about a week. And it's like, yeah, I can't do this. It's like learning a new language. I was, I didn't, it just was something that just didn't attract me. I was like, this is going to take way too much time and effort. So long story short, I found these platforms called no code platforms, which allow you to build apps and software without having to know how to code and without having to spend a ton of money. And it was like a light bulb moment for me. I was like, oh my gosh, like there's so much possibility here. And long story short, I ended up building that application, launching it. It was a running and fitness app, and made it very successful. And that's kind of how I got my start in this and realized like, hey, I could turn this into a service and a business, started freelancing and building apps and software for other people on the side. And then just found out there was a lot of demand for that type of service. So I actually ended up just switching my focus from, all right, we have the running the fitness app. Let's just build an agency and build software and apps for other people. So that was kind of how that all started. Started very organically. You know, it's very, very interesting and exciting path. I wouldn't say it was the easiest path, but it's been it's been fun and exciting for sure.
And I mean, like the way that you're saying that the way that you learn, it's like the way the websites are now, because at one stage you're getting the website, but then it's a case of just, you just put in the details and the company, the platform is actually doing everything for you, but they're making it, they're simplifying it. And yeah, so it's same thing via app. Yeah.
It's not like there's no code involved in it, like at all. It's all based in coding applications, but you, the front end person, like, you know, for us who don't know how to code, it's you just click and you drag and you drop and you type and like, that's it. It's just like, if you can use a computer, you can build it. So that's what's amazing about it. So that's why I'm such a big advocate for it. And I love to talk about it. And, it's just, it's changed my life. It's changed a lot of my clients' lives. It's just really, really cool.
And because I mean, even say a website or whatever, and I remember we got one done for Freedom Broadcasters, and it was basically the guy. I would say he kind of built like a Mercedes with a Lada engine or something like that. Because when he decided he wanted to move on to something, when I brought in other people to just look after it, they were like, I don't know what this guy has done. He's used his own kind of language, and it was like we just had to scrap it like and build from start, which was so frustrating after spending so long going through it. So I mean, I presume you've kind of you've dealt with that as well.
Yeah, and that's actually where I started to expand what I do inside of when I work with people is exactly that problem. I found that problem, right? You hand somebody over this Lamborghini, this helicopter, this awesome thing that lets them go so fast, and they're like, I don't know what to do with it. Like if I got in a helicopter today, I would have no idea how to start that thing or fly it or do anything with it, right? Um, so that's kind of where I started to be like, okay, there's got to be a better way to do this. So when we work with people, we actually kind of keep on working with them after launch. Like there's a whole training manual that I provide for every single client. Like, hey, here's how this works. Here's the. It's almost like the manual you get in your car. Like, hey, when this light comes on, this is what's broken and this kind of stuff. So we really try to go above and beyond because again, like you can find developers out there a dime a dozen. They're all over the place. But exactly what you said, that is one of the biggest problems, other than like the flaking of, hey, we'll do this for you and pay us, and then we never hear from you again. But then the back end piece is really the bigger thing where it's like, okay, now I have this awesome website, this awesome software. What do I do with it? How do I work it? How do I make changes to it? How do I upgrade it? And that's the beauty of the no code world, is that someone like you, someone like me can go in, and even if you didn't know it stuff, you could be like, okay, well, this thing is this color and I want to change it to this color. Like, where can I, oh, here's how I can do that. Boom, done. You know, so it really, it democratizes it. It empowers you. And that's the other reason I love it so much.
And like when people are getting the app, then because one of the things that I saw the trickery is they were taking control of it. So with the system that you do, is it that just say I'm the client, that I'm the developer, I have full control of the app and it's not you, and that you've control, or what way are you doing it?
There's both ways we do it. So we basically can offer either one. So we can say, hey, we'll hand over everything to you if that's the way you choose. Um, Funny enough, we actually have less people do that than just say, okay, we'll keep it kind of under control of our like accounts and that kind of stuff. Because there's billing that comes into play with that. Like if we have our developer accounts and things like that, which we pay for. And then if we hand that over to you, then that payment basically falls on you to make because it's just, but then you can basically invite us in. It's almost like having, um, you know, hey, I have my WordPress website and I'm just going to invite this developer in to change this, and you can kick them out. You can do whatever. But we also offer like, hey, if you don't really want to do that, it obviously costs a little bit more, but we'll keep it in our house and maintain it and that kind of thing. For people who are just really just like, I don't want the technical stuff to do at all. But we basically offer both, and I realize that because I can hand it over to people, and then they're still just kind of like, I don't know what to do with it. So we offer both paths for that. Yeah.
And because what I'm seeing with some of the apps, like TikTok would be one actually, that because like Apple and Play, they're taking 30%. So this would be people that are trying to monetize on the app, but then they try to get them via the desktop to avoid that.
Yeah.
And is there regulations within? Because I kind of find it strange that like they know it, but I think 30% is a bit harsh anyway. But what's your kind of experience with the payment in running?
Yeah, that's a good question. So first of all, I think there's actually starting in COVID, they actually did it's called a 15% small business program where if your app actually brings in, I think, less than $1 million, you can go down to 15% commission. Which is nice. I mean, it's still 15%, but
So I thoroughly let us in thought, yeah. Especially at the early days, or that makes a huge difference. Like that could be the difference between making payroll.
yeah, exactly. That's your profit, you know? So, but there is some interesting stuff going on right now with a lot of litigation, especially over in the EU, where they're kind of allowing additional app stores and additional web apps and things like that. So Apple has really, they've been kind of, I wouldn't say forced, but they have been kind of forced to change things with some of these court cases and litigation that's been going on with it. Um, Now, that being said, there were ways that we could kind of work around that beforehand. Like you said, there would be like a mobile app on the App Store, and then just like if you sign up for Netflix or Spotify or something, when you say like upgrade, you notice it like takes you over to Google Chrome or Safari or whatever browser you're using. Um, but you can get banned for that. You can get strikes. We've had that happen with people that change things from the way we constructed it. And they're like, "Well, I got a strike," and it's like, "Well, yeah, you might get away with that for a little while, especially if you're not making a ton of money on it, because Apple's just kind of like paying attention to the big fish." Um, but you can definitely do it. I don't advocate for it. Wink, wink. But it can be done. Yeah.
And what's strange is like the fact that TikTok's doing it because they're not a small fish. Like, so, like,
Yeah.
they're basically like Apple are going, hey, you're taking 30% away from us. And it's not that you can't pay. You can obviously pay on the app, but they're actually adding it on. They're adding on their fees and they're adding on the VAT and everything. So there's a massive difference. So once you realize that, you just go back to your thing. So I find it strange that they don't just kick them off the thing. Not that I want them to, because people. Yeah, so it's strange that it's
I think it is a bit of an outdated model, to be honest with you. I think like the 30% mark is, I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot. I really think that they should, I mean, they're the biggest company in the world, but they wouldn't listen to someone like me. But I think, but personally, I would love to see them go down to something very low. Like they're already at and that's the thing. There's very actually few apps that make the most revenue. It's kind of like the 80-20 rule in life, that like 20% of the top earning apps make like 80 to 90% of the actual money on the app store. So that's kind of where they make the bulk of their money with stuff. But for people like you and me that are starting things, that just kind of want to build something that's a recurring revenue thing, and even to make an app that makes you 5-10K a month. If you're paying 30% out in that on Apple and Google, I mean, that's too much. It's too much. I wish they would change that.
And I'm not sure. I presume this might be part of it as well. But when people are doing payments in for whatever service it is, and I'm assuming some are doing it on the apps. When you're looking at like the Visa, Mastercard, I mean, some of them are like 2.9% and stuff like that. If it's PayPal, I don't know, like they seem.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Like there's times they take 10% off me, and I don't know how they're managing it. Like if it's set on a different currency and they're charging 5%, like I can do it with it, like Revolut or whatever transfer. I could transfer money to you now, and you send it to somebody else, and it doesn't cost a penny, and it's instant. But yet they'll do it. And even Stripe, somebody paid me recently on Stripe, and they needed to do it on credit card instead of transfer. And it's like this sent the payment, and it's like, yeah, you'll get it next week. It's like they've just taken the money from you away. Now we'll use that money to make more money before we decide to give it to you. So, have you seen anyone that's going to rock that market? Because it's, I mean, they control it, but it's too high the fees.
Yeah. I am a big advocate for Stripe. I will say, I think that has been um, the one that I go to for a lot of people. And the only reason is you can also, if you don't process a lot of payments through Stripe, they will do that where they delay the payment. But they do have, once you kind of get to a certain threshold, they have what's
Oh,
called
they'll come
instant
in. Okay.
payouts.
Because usually people
Well,
just transfer to my bank account. So it says it's like because it was a credit card payment. So, okay.
yeah, but there's also another fee. There's another like 1% fee of whatever the amount is. So if you get somebody to transfer you $10,000, then you're like, oh, I want to, you already pay the 2.9% fee, and then another 1% fee to withdraw it. And yeah. So no, I think and they keep track of all your earnings and do all that kind of stuff. And you link payment accounts and all that stuff through Google and Apple and things like that. So there is a little bit of delay in things. That's just kind of the way of the world. But that's also why I really am becoming more of an advocate for people to just use web applications, where you really don't have to go through um the app stores, because there is a approval process to get an app on the App Store, on Google Play, things like that, which is usually not that hard to do as long as you don't have something that's like gambling or drugs or whatever like that. Um, but the
The
thing,
government does them things.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But then you have your web application, and you can integrate with just about any payment processor that you want, and then you don't have to go through approval. You don't have to have 30% to 15% taken off. Um, and as long as you can learn how to market and optimize that for traffic, it's a lot quicker of a way to revenue, a lot cleaner way, because you don't have to go through approvals, jump through hoops, do all that kind of stuff. But you also, if you get traffic on the app store, like my first app, my health and fitness app that I had, it took me a couple of months, but then once I finally like figured out the optimization stuff, I mean, I got hundreds of downloads a day. Like, it was like a free traffic source. It was amazing, you know. Um, so there's certain things to weigh, whatever you're gonna do. So
And is that a service that you're providing as well, where you're actually, because sometimes people create a beautiful app and it's like, then there's crickets. It's like opening a shop door. You just assume they're all coming in and then there's nothing happening. So is it something with the marketing to how to, as you say, optimize people to come in? Is that something that you provide as well?
yeah, we actually haven't done that for a client in a while. We have some legacy ones, just because like it can be a lot to do the whole nine yards, like from idea. Like, usually there's developers and then there's marketers, and it's like, hey, now I got this cool thing, help me market it. So I wouldn't say, like, I do have a couple referral partners that I do refer people over to. um but we do have when we initially launch things, we put them on the stores. We definitely do that, where we'll say we'll do the keyword research, make sure you have the nice logo, the title, the subtitle, all those things that are going to make the listing, really, really well done. Um, and then, yeah, I just haven't really haven't promoted that app store optimization service. It is something that we have that's available. But to be honest, I would probably refer people out a little bit more to a couple of our other partners for that.
Have you had anybody in the kind of crypto space, blockchain technology with an app, creating an app through your system?
That's a good question. I was thinking about that before I came on here. I've had some people ask me about it, but we've never actually had anyone sign up to do one. So we've had some people express some interest in some things, and I think in all cases it just kind of, they were like, "Well, I don't really have the budget for that." And I was like, "Okay, well, if that's the way it's got to go, then that's, it is what it is." Um, but we've had some ideas, but I've never actually done one. I would
Because I
love
mean,
to, though.
yeah, no, I think it'd be interesting. And like, obviously, like, the health and fitness and different things like that that are out there. But do you ever do ones that are kind of for a corporation, for in-house that, because I think it's like podcasting. You can have an internal podcast that's basically just shared with just your team and stuff like that. But and that would be a great way as well of getting the information. So have you had some companies that actually do that?
Yep, 100%. Internal tools are one of the specialties that been getting into more recently, past year or two. Um, so one of the things I love is when people come to me with like a spreadsheet, and they're like, well, I kind of just want to turn this into software. And like that is one of the coolest projects to do because Excel, Google Sheets, whatever you use, there's so much logic in there. There's so many processes, workflows, automations, and it just translates so well. We actually took one you mentioned health and fitness. We one of our clients, she had a spreadsheet she got from this conference where she had like weight tracking stuff, calorie intake, water intake, this whole 9 yards for like questionnaires, everything all tracked in a Google spreadsheet. And it was honestly like hard to follow. So we took that and we translated that into a complete SaaS software that now she has for her clients and then she can use for free, downloads and stuff. Another one I did was for a guy, I graduated high school with one of his brothers. And he had found me on social media and wanted this. He has a large equipment repair company. So he repairs like big dump trucks or excavators or big heavy equipment. And he needed an internal tool to track like his customers and his working or his invoices and send things to QuickBooks and do all kinds of that stuff. So that really helped because there's when people come to me with that, there's like, okay, there might be off the shelf software that's available for those types of things that you could just subscribe to for $50 a month, $100 a month, whatever. But a lot of times those people are like, well, I've looked into those and they don't really fit. I want to be able to customize it. I want to be able to do something that's like my use case isn't quite there. Maybe I signed up for the free trial of that off the shelf software, but it didn't really do what I wanted it to do. And I want something custom. So those are really the projects where we come in. We're like, oh, okay. So we kind of have a base. Like another one, he does rental inspections. Like he'll go to houses and he'll do move out inspections before someone else is moving in or move in inspections. And he has a software that he uses, but he was like, I kind of want it to do this and this and this, but he can't change anything. So we basically took that software and we kind of modeled it and, you can kind of hack it and kind of find like, okay, this is how this functions and this is how this functions and whatever, and built a custom tool that he can change and update. So yeah, those are really exciting opportunities. And then, AI tools, and we're adding AI and different things and language models into those and stuff too. So, yeah, it's a wild frontier for sure.
And what about people that are course creators? Like, if they have a course, is this because I know sometimes they go onto the desktop and everything, but can they create the app and they have, like, say, the whole course that's tracking where you're going, and then there's like the interaction and stuff like that? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. That was actually where I got started when after I did my health and fitness one. I was at the time my podcast, I was getting a lot of coaches, consultants, course creators on there, and those were the first people that we had actually built applications for. So it works really, really well. Like one lady, she's like my prime example I use on things like this. She has basically like a network marketing company. Well, not a marketing company. She used to be very successful in the world of network marketing. She built a really good success story there. And then what she did was she turned her knowledge into courses and programs and coaching programs. So we basically took all of that and put it into her own app and software. Like you said, desktop, it's a mobile, it's everything, but she does all her Zoom calls and she'll upload them into there. She does, standalone courses that she can put into there. She now has a podcast that she puts into there. So it's just like her little world. It's her little place. It's like, because you could come on and she could say, hey, go follow me, go listen to my podcast over here. But then, oh, I have my course over here. But then, oh, go to this thing over here. Like she just says, hey, download my app. It's all there. Check it out. Boom. Off you go. So it really has helped her like streamline what she's been doing because she has so much content. It's crazy. But that's one that I love to share because she was like, oh my gosh, this is so much easier.
And because, like, some people can charge for the app. I presume you have the ability of saying, okay, it just costs $10 to download or whatever, or a monthly subscription. But with, like, sometimes the person has creating the app or whatever just to share the information and then kind of optimize that to kind of get clients coming in. So, like, there's obviously email. So is it like, what ways have you seen people that they're sending them to their Facebook and stuff like that? What kind of ways can people use the app to kind of monetize it in different ways?
Yeah, it's a very good question because a lot of people think like, okay, I'm going to set this up and I'm going to charge $10 a month for it. And it's just going to be my next big revenue win, you know? More often than not, that doesn't usually work. I've seen people have more success if you have like a yearly subscription. So you say, hey, instead of $10 a month, you can sign up for the next year for, 10 times 12 is 120, say, $79, $67, do Black Friday sales, do those types of things. So that usually works pretty well. But then I think the other thing is that I've seen at least some of you talk about the course creators, content creators, where they actually make more money with it is it's almost like having a book. It's like your book is your business card. You might sell a book for $20 on Amazon, but then somebody reads your book, the right people read your book, and then they're like, I kind of like get in contact with them. And then boom, next thing you know, they're a consulting client, they're paying you $10,000 a year, whatever. The same has happened with our clients in their apps is they might not pay through the app they might not be able to offer, you can't even sell an in-app purchase for like $10,000. You know what I mean? Like who's really going to do that? Plus you'd only get 30% of it, but I think a lot of it leads to, like you said, you're building this list, you have the people who are downloading, they sign up with their email, you can transfer them to your email list, you can upsell them on different products, different services, different things that you have. And that has actually been a lot more of a profitable path to people than actually just making there's obviously like a base that you can make on the subscription. And that's always something that, hey, join my thing. It's $10,000 to join. Well, oh, I can't afford that. Well, okay, great. Go subscribe to our app. You can pay $100 for the year and you get all this content. Okay, great. I'll go do that. So that's kind of like, it's a creative way of thinking about it, and a little bit different, but I've seen that work for many of our people.
And because you mentioned there is companies out there and they'll do $100 a month and stuff like that, but it's not really, it's a plug, it's you get so many different things, and if you want to make changes later, that's when they go, oh, that's gonna. So what's kind of the pricing point? And obviously it depends. You're having on one, it's a very open book, but for those that are maybe perhaps considering it, whether in-house company or somebody as a business or a coach, what kind of funds are we talking about? And I know, so we're talking, this is December 24. So I know some people might be listening to this 2 years later or 4 years later, as they do in the podcast world, and things could change, but we're basing it on today's date. How does the structure work for pricing?
Yeah, we have a lot of different options. So I actually have one really cool tool that I'll share with you guys. It's called my app cost calculator, and you can literally get an exact dollar amount. And you just go on, you say like, I want an iOS app that's professionally done and has X, Y, and Z features, and boom, it'll spit out a quote for you. It might come out at $2,500. It might come out at $25,613. Like it can really be all over the place. I'd say a lot of I think our average, I haven't looked at it in a while, but our average project engagement is really anywhere between the $5,000 to $10,000 range, to be honest. Like it's really, we try to make it a lot more affordable, for, especially we're talking a pretty basic MVP, something that's, it solves a real problem. It's doable. It's launched. It's kind of taken care of in that way. We are rolling out, it's funny you asked this right now. We have an entire VIP program that'll be a little bit more, that has all of the stops, like 0 to 100, like coaching, design, building, launching, optimizing, the whole 9 yards, which we mentioned earlier. So that'll obviously be our biggest high level VIP program, when you're talking, kind of 10K plus of getting involved in that. But we also break it down to where people don't have to pay all at once. So we're trying to be very flexible with that stuff. So yeah, it's kind of a vague answer.
No, that's it's like a website, because I had companies doing websites, they'll do, and it's it's impossible because somebody wants just a basic one and somebody wants bells and whistles that move around and calculate stuff, and it's impossible. And with is it then a monthly? Just say it's whether it's a 5K one or a 25K one, does it depend then on the storage that's needed? Like, is it a monthly or a yearly kind of fee, even if they don't do any changes to it, or maybe they're doing it themselves? But if you're in control of it, what's the kind of typical cost that people should set aside for the update of it? That
Yeah, I mean, we have plans really as low as like $100 a month, $150 a month, something like that. Because yeah, there is storage and there is costs involved with maintaining the software, and especially if one of the things that a lot of other companies, like a lot of even no code platforms, will charge for is user count. So if you have 100 users, they might charge you this amount, but if your app blows up and you get 100,000 people like overnight, your bill goes through the roof because of the usage of that, right? So we do have that, but it's also like I mean, we could really support up to like 1 million users. So unless your app goes like absolute gangbusters and you have millions and millions and millions of people, then yeah, we'll have to charge a little bit more. But other than that, kind of staying under that threshold, yeah, it really starts with that, very, very low maintenance costs. But we do have add-ons of different things, of different back-end software you can add, additional coaching, additional fixes, those kind of things. Like you mentioned, if there was none, if you just wanted it, here it is, and I just want to keep it like as it is forever, off you go. So, yeah, it's pretty affordable. We try to make it so it's, you're not really spending a ton of money on this stuff, but you're going to pay for it either way. You know what I mean? So that's just there's no getting around it. So yeah, I try to keep it very affordable.
I know that some people they'll do a search and they get quotes of 100 grand, like so exactly. So
Yeah, which
with
is my story
yeah, what's with your experience? What's the craziest app that was asked that you created?
that I've created.
Yeah, that you've been or that was asked of you. Maybe you didn't do it, but like, is there any that you would never have thought of, and somebody created something and maybe worked even?
Oh, last week I had a guy ask me that if he could make an app to punch his brother in the face. Uh, I thought that was pretty amusing. I don't think he was very serious about it, but that was one of the like, this guy can't be serious. Like, what are you talking about? Um, no, I mean, I've never got like requests for like outlandish things, other than that, really. That was kind of that one took the cake. But yeah, just to share that, like, when I going back to my own story, when I was going through and getting quotes with my running and fitness application, like you said, I went and typed in quotes, excuse me, and I got quotes from between 100 grand and $250,000 to do this application that I built and launched for. I think it took me about 3 months to do, for like, I think less than $1,000. So that, but I did it all myself, and I had no idea, and I was teaching myself. Um, so yeah, I think those were pretty outlandish ones. I would say I was like, ugh, that's a lot of money, $250,000.
And then you get the one that will quote you the same thing for 2,000. You go, oh, this is great. You send the money, and then you no longer hear from them. So there's a lot of that going on as well, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yep.
So with your podcast, you might let people know what your podcast is called and what you cover in it, and then we'll see, did you create an app for it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as of right now, I say as of right now because I've changed the title a couple of times, and I might change it again. So we'll see. But as of right now, it's called Tech Bytes, Bytes, Tech Bytes with Dan Hafner. So if you want to, if you're listening to this 2 years later, just search Dan Hafner. I'm sure it'll come up. But I started that as it was called the Run Your Day podcast back in the day. And it was really meant to be a go along with the app that I was building because it was running in fitness. And that was really, really a fun episode. So, but now I've transitioned it into talking a lot more about technology, have these kind of conversations about apps and software, but also we talk with SaaS founders, people who have built very successful, SaaS software companies, people who, are in the AI space, people in sales. Like I try to have all kinds of different conversations. So anything really related to technology, business, personal development. I also love that was the beginning of the podcast as well, because I was really going through a phase of personal growth. And I think that's very important to do as you grow anyway. You always should be learning. So I love to talk about that kind of stuff. So it's a very, very fun show, very interesting. I'd like to talk about pretty much all those types of things. Um, I did used to have an app for it, but I no longer did. And I think I did take that down when there was about a 2-year hiatus I had with the show when I did the Run Your Day, and I shut it down, took the app down, and then brought the podcast back as I think it was as Tech Bytes. So the app is no more. Um, but maybe we'll bring it back someday. Who knows?
Have you got other podcasters that have created an app that you've
Uh,
done an app for?
Not specifically for their podcast, but like I mentioned with my other client, there are a lot of people who embed their podcast inside of their app as like another source of content, because a lot of those with the RSS feed that you get, you can, you publish it and it publishes on Apple and Spotify and whatever. So it's just another way to have that, because you can send alerts and you can do, notifications and things. So we've embedded a lot of them in YouTube channels and things like that, but not specifically for podcasts.
Just curious, when you kind of rebranded yours, did you stick with the RSS feed or did you create a brand new?
I did stick with it. Yes, I did.
I'm just curious because I did that with my speaking podcast a year ago or maybe two, and I had something like 1,500 plus reviews, and it was number one. It was speaking podcast, but then I changed it because I was getting authors and everything. So originally it was kind of to help people public speaking and with coaches. And I said, all right, I've done over 200 on that. I'll kind of change it that it's like with authors and I just bring in interesting people, entrepreneurs and stuff like that. So I changed it to speaking with Roy Collin. And now all the reviews and everything is the numbers and everything have like changed. And it's like, so I think I hurt myself doing that. And I'm just curious, did you find that it should have been probably better to just create a new one?
Well, that's why I had thought about that, because with the reviews and with the ratings and the number of episodes that I'd had, I think I'm coming up on 400 episodes with the podcast whole time. Maybe like 385 or something like that. I had figured that there's like, I had people say like, well, if you keep that same RSS feed, it's probably better than starting over from scratch. And I was like, okay, that's fine with me. I'll just do it that way. So I can't really tell you what would have happened if I'd have started over, but yeah.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of actually going back and seeing, and I'm thinking of reaching out to Apple as well because it just changed it. And even though I just kept it because I continued the numbers and kept the RSS feed, but I think it's actually affected it.
Mm. Yeah, I think it probably did affect it when I changed the name and because I think I also did change the category. I used to have it under, I think, personal development, and I changed it to technology, which I think for a while hurt my downloads and stuff, because I think it just indexed it in another category of podcasts. So I did notice like, "Bleh," but it also had to do with the fact that I had a hiatus, so people probably stopped listening. But I still get a lot of listens on like old episodes, like episode 20, 25, when I didn't even know. It took me about 40 or 50 episodes to really find my voice, like to find the ability to actually speak like this. So yeah, for anyone starting one, just, persevere. It's a really fun.
Exactly, is that
It,
that's it. And the thing is, I mean, you know that from just talking to the different people. I mean, it's actually a good way of kind of even converting some of your guests to become customers because when you're dealing with some of them, they might want the app, and you would never have the opportunity of being in front of them, and you just don't know. And I mean, it's like same with me. I've got a farm and stuff, and people let me know if they're interested in this. Whether they want to coach, or start a podcast, whatever the different things that I offer. And
yeah.
you're not then pushing it or trying to chase. It's like people put up their hand and say, "Hey, I'm interested in this," and so there's an advantage.
It's a very, very, my wife actually mentioned she's thinking about doing her own podcast, which is really crazy because she's not a public speaker at all. And she just mentioned this the other day. So I'm like super excited. I was like, yes. But that's what I told her. I was like, it's really more of a networking tool, I think, sometimes, especially in her field and medical field and stuff. There's so many people that should be able to meet that she wouldn't have otherwise been able to meet because of always working and being in that closed environment. And I think people overlook that. And like I said, the same thing with the app and having your own software tools. it's a business card sometimes. It can act as that, like, hey, I have this awesome tool that I built. Oh, that's interesting. Not everyone has that, so uh yeah, that's really what you got to think of.
Just finally, because I think was it Unity you do the stuff on and it went out to both. Do people create it just on Apple or Android and they decide I only want this, or when you're doing it, do you do it for both?
That's a good question. So a lot of the platforms, the no-code platforms that we use, allow you to go to both. And that's what's another part of the technology that's really amazing is you have one back end where you edit everything, and then you can publish to Apple, you can publish to Android, and you can publish to the web. And all the changes you make populate everywhere. Just like your podcast, it populates everywhere. So you don't have to go change it over here and change it over here and change it over here all the time. You just change it one place, which is really, really neat. And then if you say like, oh, I want to just update the web version first and not update my Google and Apple, you can do that too. So you have complete control over the whole thing. It's really amazing technology. It's really cool.
Thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. So I'm going to ask you to share where they can contact you, but you might also mention one of the apps that you're kind of maybe most proud of that people can find and see what it looks like, that what you've provided.
Yeah, that's a very good thing. So I have a really cool resource that I actually like to provide. I'll send you the link as well. But it is a little guide that I built, which basically walks you through the AI and no code are really merging right now, and they're kind of becoming one thing. So I put together basically a guide of like how to build software with AI and no code. So you can go to dappermobileapps.com/download, and that will be a place there. You can actually book a call with us. You can access the guide. It's completely free and it's really, really cool. It basically is like how to use AI on top of no code, which has really exploded this world. So that's one, the one call to action I would give. And then, so where are the bulk of your listeners in Poland? Are they all over the world, or where are they?
50% are in the States, and the UK is big. And most of my podcasts are like that. At least 50% are in the States. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just asked because most of the apps we do are not available outside the US because they're just US clients. There was a really cool one we did that is called Dipt, DIPT. And it is basically an ice cream directory. So you can, if you really get into ice cream, you get into finding local ice cream places. We've added, I don't know, at this point, over 1,000 different ice cream places all over the US, that show like basically their flavors and their ratings. It's almost like the Untapped app for a lot of people who like beer. We kind of modeled it after that one. So yeah, you could definitely check that out. That's on Google and Apple as well. That was one of my favorite ones we did.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, listen, I'll make sure I'll put all your links both on the audio and the video, but thoroughly enjoyed the conversation then. And I'll also put this on the Speaking podcast because I think with the apps, it's going to be relevant for other things. So those listening, I didn't mention it at the start, I just said the crypto is also going to be on the Speaking podcast. So until next week, you'll find all the episodes on thecryptopodcast.org or thespeakingpodcast.com. Sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, share with your friends, and comment on what we discussed. We'd love to hear your comments. Until next week, take care. So I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. As mentioned at the start, you can find my 6 podcasts on roycollin.com or scan the QR code if you're looking to start a podcast or do a podcasting tour, help with that. Also, if you're looking for a virtual assistant, we also have that service. And you can help the show by visiting the store, supporting our sponsors, or making a donation. Until next week, take care.